Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 2024 edition of the PlayFast podcast, hosted by Q4 Lacrosse. I am Bill Tharp, joined by my mainest men, the brightest minds in New Jersey lacrosse, Anthony Terranova, Gil Swenson. Fellas, we're back. How are we doing?
We're back.
We're back, Tharpy. I forgot we're on video this year. I'm shaking my head at you already, but excited to be here. Excited to welcome in Nick Federico here. I had the pleasure of working with Nick last season doing the Q4 Lacrosse Games of the Week with Mars Sussex Sports, now Go Big Sports, I believe. So, Nick, welcome.
Pleasure, guys. I was an avid listener last year since I met Gil and doing all the games last year. So I'm looking forward for what's to come this season and a lot of good storylines. I'm glad to be a part of the ride and help you guys out and do some good things for 2024 season.
Absolutely.
It'll be quite the year.
Yeah.
Well, for a million different reasons, we were unable to kind of record a end of season podcast last year. So I think we kind of wanted to just start off, kind of recap what happened at the end of last year, kind of tee up what we're looking forward to this season. So last year, Group 1 state championship, Rumson Fairhaven defeated Mountain Lakes. In Group 2, Summit defeated, why am I blanking?
Wall.
Summit defeated Wall. Group 3, it was Shawnee over Chatham. Group 4, Ridgewood over Cherokee. Non-public A, it was Del Barton over Seton Hall. And in non-public B, it was Gil St. Bernard's over Princeton Day. That led us into the Curse Cup, where Shawnee opted out in year 1, which led to Ridgewood eventually taking down Summit for the inaugural Curse Cup championship. Gil, I know you were kind of a part of the Curse Cup. You were a part of some of those high-level meetings. So I just wanted your take, year 1 Curse Cup. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, it showed the support was really there for this type of tournament. The Tournament of Champions ultimately is what it is and what it was in year 1. So the support was there from the coaches. Obviously, a lot of coaches got involved in these meetings and making it happen. The support from fans and just overall supporters of the game. I think they raked in several $1,000s to through a GoFundMe to help fund this, which there's a lot of costs, which I think is part of the reason the TOC is no longer there. But yeah, I mean, the money came in relatively quickly to help support it and get the facilities at Kane and the security and officials and everything needed to make it go. So that was awesome to see. Shawnee not being able to be there dampened it a little bit, I think, just from, past years. You never really saw one of these champions not be at that tournament. They had their banquet, it is what it is type of thing. But overall, I think, people want to see extra lacrosse. They want to see that tournament go. So I think it's a great thing that it happened. Got to credit the Coaches Association for making it happen. Coach Flynn kind of spearheading that with them and making sure, putting in a lot of legwork last year and this year now going into the season to really make it happen. So overall, happy to see it there.
Nova, your general thoughts on Curse Cup and the state finals in general?
Gil pretty much said everything that I would say. It was spot on. Obviously, Shawnee backing out was the only thing that kind of like hurt the whole process and hurt the whole thing. But overall, I think you got everything you wanted. Like, obviously, the donations were there right off the bat. And most importantly, I think you had what everyone was trying to say is the same schools are always winning. It's always these private schools, things like that. And to have a non-private school, win the whole thing was a pretty big deal, and certainly something that in a perfect world is a great start to the Curse Cup, and hopefully something that we can do for many years to come. And obviously next year will be a huge challenge because of the start and stop date. But other than that, hopefully we can continue just to keep it rolling.
Yeah, I think I don't mean to be the negative guy in the group. I was a little disappointed, to be honest. I think I don't think this is much of a secret, but we were 1 quarter away from Princeton Day was going to opt out if they won, and we were a quarter away from Princeton Day opting out, and I think that would have been a tough look in year 1, especially when you consider we're talking about the group 3 state champion in Shawnee. It's not the non-public B team, it's not the group 1 team. That's traditionally that's one of the strongest teams, and I think you look at that Shawnee team last year in particular. I think about a guy like Ethan Krause. How cool would it have been for a player like that to kind of be in the spotlight and it just kind of it's a shame, we pounded our chest as boys lacrosse, and have teams opting out in year one is a tough look. But at the end of the day, I do wonder about the future of the Curse Cup. I think year one was great, but I think, as you said, Nova kind of looking to next year. Like, I think there's a real discussion of where does club lacrosse fit into this, and the Curse Cup going later and later into the summer, and missing that first week of club tournaments. I think it's going to be an interesting discussion, and I'm curious to see what the future holds for it. Nova, as a club guy, do you have an opinion that some of these things could affect the Curse Cup as it comes to that?
Yes and no. I say yes, it could impact it depending on what they're trying to do. But I think that high school lacrosse is so ingrained in each other and family, and they want to play with each other, and all the kids that are winning want to play together if they're able to play together with their high school teams. And the amount of teams that it truly impacts overall are few and far between, where again, some of the top clubs are definitely going to be impacted a little bit more, probably because those top players are going to probably be playing in the Curse Cup. But I already kind of said it last year, where the simplest fix is you just don't go on a Saturday. You got to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, something like that, so that these kids can then go right to their club. And at the same time, too, we want eyes on the Curse Cup. We're not going to get eyes on the Curse Cup when every youth kid is going to a tournament on that Saturday, and every high school kid also has a tournament in their for their club team on that Saturday. No one's showing up. I couldn't show up at a tournament, right? I would love to go and watch that Curse Cup final, being unable to, because again, you got to get to the best tournaments, best events that you can. And if it lines up on Curse Cup date, it lines up on Curse Cup date. So I think if you really want to get the most eyes on this event, you can't have it on a Saturday. You got to do it on a Friday, just because we're so far into the summer season. And next year, again, we are already going to be battling. It's going to be like 2 weeks into the club season, where that's just going to be that next year is going to be a very interesting one for sure.
Yeah, the start and end dates this year alone, I mean, is tricky. I think next year it's going to get even tougher. Like you're saying, I think ultimately what everyone wants to see happen is the TOC comes back and it's worked into the season in a better way to get to the summer. Like you're saying, though, but like the way it is now, the NJSIA is obviously not prioritizing the TOC because it's not their tournament. But if they were to again, that would fall on a better day of the week, like you're saying. But again, I think the Curse Cup needs to serve its purpose for now, at least, as kind of the stopgap between the TOC ending and hopefully coming back in the future. And I think that's a possibility down the stretch. I think every sport's kind of in the same boat right now, kind of uprising against the fact that it's not there. So if that makes an impact, if that happens, it's, I think that's what everybody wants to see, because I think that answers a lot of the questions and the issues like you're bringing up.
Do you guys see any way that the Curse Cup could be the tournament, instead of TOC coming back? I know you guys just mentioned that, but do you think there's any way the Curse Cup could be the tournament, the postseason tournament for years to come?
I think it has to be for now. I don't see it changing until the TOC comes back, really. I mean, I don't think it wouldn't become anything else. I don't think the format would ever change. I think they're trying to continue what the TOC is, but like Nova said, like the dates that the state sets out, it's not going to work over the next couple of years, like Nova's saying, maybe as well as it could if the state association helped prioritize it within their scheduling and their dates. If we start earlier, end earlier with the season, and there's more time to fit that in, I think it can go, as long as it needs to. But if they're going to keep pushing dates around and push them back, and it's going to fall during club time, I think I agree with you, Nova. I think on a Friday night would be huge. I think the state ending state tournaments on a Saturday makes it tricky too, because then you're asking teams to go right into a game on Monday. I think if I could be wrong, but I feel like TOC championships a lot of the time used to be on like Wednesday nights, and I think they were mobbed because everybody's around on a Wednesday night in early June. But again, the state planned that accordingly with the playoff schedule, and they didn't have state finals end on a Saturday. They had them end on also a Wednesday or Thursday. I remember you and I played in it or coached in it on a Thursday night. And then that allowed for the TOC final to be on a Wednesday or Thursday night. So again, if it's not aligned with the state schedule, which it's not right now, it's very tricky for everybody. But I think the Coaches Association, I think, is doing the right thing by trying to continue it as long as they can.
I think my biggest problem with the Curse Cup is, and I mean this in the most delicate way, it's kind of a glorified high school tournament right now, right? Like there's no official statistics kept. There's no, your overall win-loss isn't impacted. Like if you go on NJ.com and go to, we'll use Gil, for example, the last game on Gil's schedule is a win against Princeton Day. You know, I know we had Joe Kinney on last year, Mike Kinney on last year to talk about, you know, his preseason rankings of what NJ.com does. And I know he kind of mentioned, you know, he kind of did a solid for Tim Flynn and was highlighting the Curse Cup and including it in his top 20 rankings and stuff. But I view that as kind of, that's not what really happened last year, right? Like if the season ended after the state championships, was Ridgewood going to be his team of the year? Was Owen Staunton going to be his player of the year? And I think that like those official records, they don't exist anywhere. Like we know about it because we love the sport. We breathe the sport. This is everything to us. If Joe Schmo from Texas looks up New Jersey lacrosse, Ridgewood winning the Curse Cup means nothing to him. And I think we have to find a way to make the Curse Cup matter in terms of statistics, counting stats, adding to total win-loss record, because I think at the end of the day, it really is. It's like the Jersey Strong tournament with a big trophy. Like it doesn't mean anything. And it's not to say that the Curse Cup isn't special. If Pingree is ever playing in the Curse Cup, you know, obviously you want to win. That's why you play the sport. But I think right now it doesn't mean much. And I think it's, you know, it's always going to lack the luster of the TOC, you know, because there is that rich history of the TOC and, you know, Bridgewater with their huge winning streak. And then, you know, the rise of the public schools towards the end of the TOC run. I don't know if the passion's there for the Curse Cup yet, but I hope I'm wrong. I think for the first time in the PlayFast podcast era, we have a sponsor. Gil Swenson, going to kick it over to you for our first sponsor.
Yeah, we picked up kind of towards the end of last year. We actually started working with Elevate Sports Equipment. Excited to have them back this year. I'm sure you guys have seen their products on social media. They're all over the place and out on the field especially. But Elevate makes innovative lacrosse training products, including their 11th man inflatable goalie and defender. And I believe they have a new 11th man elite goalie made out of foam material. And overall, they help simulate game-like reps for shooters, for defensemen, for goalies. To prepare everybody for their game like no other product. So use Elevate code ElevateQ4 to get 10% off your order at elevatesportsequipment.com. And I also have to plug our Garden State Lacrosse Cup coming back for year 3. Speaking of New Jersey lacrosse, back again at Rutgers University, just confirmed. 2 years now, Garden State Cup's been featuring top high school boys in the state, competing with their regional teams for their championship. Last year, we split the boys into upper class and underclass divisions, which you guys actually helped coach East and Central squad, respectively. This year, we're adding in middle school boys and high school girls divisions to continue to showcase more New Jersey's top players. If you think you're one of the best players in New Jersey, sign up for tryouts at www.gardenstatelacrossecup.com. If you'd like to coach as well, high school coaches, feel free to fill that out as well, the interest form there. And players enter PlayFast in the discount code field for 10% off your tryout registration.
Sweet. Awesome, Gil. Okay, moving forward, you know, so we kind of put a bow on the 2023 season. I want to look forward to 2024 here. And some of the biggest news actually happened off the field this year. Some big coaching changes this year. I think the first and probably the biggest, Brendan Gorman steps down as the head coach at Don Bosco. They kind of have a weird coaching search. They hired a candidate. He ended up turning the job down. So Matt Lane, officially the brand new head coach at Don Bosco this year. Nova, just initial thoughts, you know, Matt Lane taking over for Coach Gorman.
Yeah, I think he'll do a great job. He's super passionate. You can already kind of see all the things he's trying to do to get kids onto campus and to build that program, continue to build that program to where it already is, which is always a top 5 team in the state of New Jersey. I got to coach with him for a little bit. Great coach, super passionate, like I already kind of stated, and he's going to continue to do some great things there with some already great pieces. And Gorman obviously was a fantastic coach as well, and obviously he's going to be missed, but he's in good hands. It was weird because they actually hired another coach, then he stepped down like 2 weeks later, and then they got Matt Lane. It was a weird situation, but I think they found their guy for at least right now, and they'll I think he'll do some great things for the next couple of years to come at least.
Yeah, 100%. The other coaching hire that I think is monumental, down the shore in Manasquan, Sean Cunningham steps down. Former Randolph head coach John Nazalonsky takes over. Gil, you're a Randolph guy. Talk to us a little about Coach Naz and how you think he'll do with Manasquan.
I am, yeah. Coach Cunningham did a great job building that program up. I think making them a contender in Group 1 and 2, kind of bouncing back and forth, but doing a great job. Coach Zaslonsky, I think, is the guy to take them to the next level. He was great. He was an assistant when I was at Randolph for years. I grew up with his kids and played with them. And he was coaching us all through youth as well. So I've known them a long time. He's a great guy, Rutgers alum. Standout goalie at Rutgers, and just a great coach, great leader. He's going to do a great job building up that Manasquan program.
Yeah, I think that was, Matt Lane, I think I agree, is going to do a great job at Bosco, but I think that is a hire that you see takes a team, from top 15 to 10 to, breaking into that top 10 pretty cleanly with Manasquan. Next, Bergen Catholic, friend of the podcast, Rick Beardsley, let go, replaced by former Bergen Catholic player Frankie Feaster. I don't know if this was the most shocking story when it came out, but I think I was really disappointed because I do think, with the way recruiting rules have changed and the non-public coaches being allowed to recruit the middle school kids, I think Coach Beardsley actually would have done a really great job with that. As we saw, when he was on our show, he's one of the most passionate, intelligent, diehard lacrosse guys. And I think that he would have bought in some really great talent to Bergen. And, for whatever reason, just didn't work out. But I do think that, Bergen's in kind of an in-between spot right now. They're not quite a top 20 team, but they're also not a, bottom half team. So I'll be interested to see what Coach Feaster can do with those guys in year one. Sticking with non-public A, Pope John, head coach Chris Hoffman steps down, replaced by Joe Delafera. Nova, as another team in non-public A. Any, thoughts on the Pope John coaching change?
No, I really don't know too much about him, to be quite honest with you. Obviously, they are going to do what they need to be doing to continue to bring talent into the program. I've only heard great things from players that are there right now as well as some past players. So I assume everything is going to be going in the right direction with that program.
Awesome. And then big news for this podcast. For the first time since the 2021 season, our co-host, our good friend, Gil Swenson, back on the sidelines as a head coach, taking over at North Hunterdon. Gil, just give me the 30-second elevator pitch on North Hunterdon and how it feels to be back on the sideline.
It feels good. It was a nice kind of year off last year to reset a little bit, and again getting to work with Nick up in the booth, kind of calling some games, being able to watch different teams around the state for the first time really in a long time since we're always coaching. But it felt good to get out there Thursday for practice. Energy was high. We got a great group of kids. I think a lot of great athletes with a ton of potential. So excited to work with them and open up here in a couple of weeks and just kind of adjusting to the short preseason. It's crazy the amount of stuff we got to do, but in such a short time. But the kids are great. We got a great coaching staff with us this time around too. So I'm excited for it.
Awesome. Well, we're very excited for you, Gil, and we're rooting for you, and go kick some ass this year, man. The moment we have all been waiting for. Last year we did this in one podcast. This year we're going to build some anticipation and split this into two with the PlayFast podcast top 20. Now, just a quick reminder how we do our top 20. Nova, Gil, and myself each independently do a top 20, and then we, compare them. We score every team, so we rank them 1 through 20. 1 would get 1 point, 2 gets 2 points, so on until we get our top 20. This year, our top 20s were pretty similar. So I think we think we know what the state of New Jersey is going to look like this year, but as always, you never really know. So this year we had 2 teams that received votes. They didn't quite make it in the top 20, and that was St. Joe's Regional up in Montvale and Caldwell. So 2 teams that are very strong teams traditionally. Lost some stuff both teams, so they weren't quite there yet for the top 20, but they were receiving some votes. But now we are ready to kick off our top 20 with the number 20 team, the Moorestown Quakers.
I'll start off with the Morristown Quakers here, who finished 14-8, who lost to eventual group winner Shawnee by only 1 goal in the Group 3 South final. Really a handful of teams could be in the spot, like just talked about. Caldwell for sure, SJR for sure, and a few others that we definitely want to list and name off that we're at least in conversations. Bridgewater came up, Rampo, Glenridge, a lot of great schools popped up within our conversations, but this list is pretty tough. And as Tharp already mentioned, we hope that in a way that we're not right with some of these things. We want to see teams rise up out of nowhere. We want to see teams that maybe a lot of people think are really good not be as good, and that's what makes the sport as good as it is. That that generally does happen, especially in the state of New Jersey this season. But in terms of then back to Morristown, really a handful of teams could be in the spot. I think ultimately we went with Morristown in the 20 spot because we see them as the favorite to at least take the Group 3 South. Shawnee's definitely going to have something to say about that, but Shawnee needs to replace over 260 points. That's just no easy task, and so we'll see and wait if they're able to kind of do that. But for right now, we gave that nod to Morristown. Returning back as Cole Pitcher, he's the leading returner with 79 points. Other guys that are coming back that are starters are Harrison Brinkman. He was a starter coming back. They got an absolute force of the net in Shane Ginley. He's also returning. And they got 3 young guys that had absolutely major minutes, and Chase Calder, Ryan O'Connor, and Aiden Ruff. So I think with a combination of just all those things compared to what a lot of other teams have lost, especially at least in the South and Group 3 in general, I think they're going to be right up there and in the conversation throughout the course of the season, in the back end of the top 20.
Yeah, and I think Morristown's interesting, especially when you guys were at Monty. Morristown is one of the best teams in the state, and they kind of, had some graduation losses and, some attrition through their program. I think it's good to see them kind of back where they've been. And I think, talking to some guys around the program, some alumni, they're very excited about this team. I think, like you said, Nova, it's a good combination of, youth and returners for sure. All right, our number 19 team, sticking with the South Jersey theme, the Eastern Vikings. Eastern, I think, is a team that many people might be surprised to see in this spot. I think they have a very, very good chance in Group 4 South. Incredibly, guys, they returned every single point from last year. They did not lose a single point to graduation, at least according to NJ.com. They returned their Fogo. They do lose their goalie, but they bring back some really big studs. Offensively, they bring back Chase Huggard, who had 96 points. He's going to St. John's. They bring back Sam Zach, who had 83 points, and he's going to Salisbury. Their Fogo, Kevin Duffy, committed to Stevens Tech. And then defensively, Thomas Keating, committed to UMBC, and their LSM, Jonathan Brennan, who's committed to Stevenson. So a lot of top-end talent. I think, last year they lost to the Group 4 South final to Cherokee. I think, for a couple years there, Southern was the team to beat in Group 4 South. They had a couple of really strong classes in a row. I think, Cherokee took it last year. I definitely think Eastern's the team to beat in Group 4 South, though. Really excited by them. And they kick off week 1. One of the first games of the season. They play Manasquan in week 1. So we're going to find out a lot about this team. They bring back a ton of points. Are they ready to be, one of the top teams in the state? We'll have to find out, but I'm super excited to watch them play. And, as I was doing research, I looked at this team and it's like, they're going to be really, really tough to beat. So I think it's very exciting.
I think it's great to see a couple of these teams. Morristown's not, a stranger to the top 20, but seeing some of these teams we have ranked here, and we'll get to a couple more in a little bit, compared to some of the teams right on the outskirts, who I think are all deserving of, being talked about top 20. It's just, we said it last year too. I think we're starting to see more and more teams be a part of this good to great team conversation, where in the past maybe it was 5 to 10 teams who really belonged up there. Now we're starting to see 20 to 25 to 30. We get into these conversations via text all week long where we're talking about teams who might be like 30, but we're arguing about them in the top 20. And I think it just goes to show kind of how much talent's now dispersing around the state and developing around the state. I think it's overall, it's great to see.
For sure. At number 18, Montclair. Montclair back in the top 20. A little bit of a down year last year, but we believe in Montclair this year.
Yeah, I gotta believe in Coach Mike Deal. People are probably like, "How is an 8-12 team from last year? In your top 20." First off, nothing really too much matters from last year. It's a whole new year. That's kind of why we do it. Montclair has 9 players committed already to play at the next level, which is actually more than half of the top 10 teams we're going to list next time that we do this. 4 of those 9 guys are D1 guys, but again, guys that are committed. They play lacrosse year-round, clearly, and there's something to be said for that over the course of the season. Obviously, the biggest loss is Luca Ward, now starting midfielder from Holy Cross, so they have to certainly replace that, and that's going to be no easy feat. But they do have some absolute returners and studs coming back for them this year. They got a captain, Jaden Truesdale, at the midfield. At defense, they got T.R. Bransky, a Gettysburg commit, and their top pole by a lot is Gabe Epstein, who is an Army commit. They got Boston commit Simon Mikolashevsky. He really will step up. He really has to step, I would say, on the offensive side of the ball to replace a lot of points from Ward that were left behind, even though he's more so known for his prowess as a D-midi. Steph, one of the best names, Mastrodimus, however you say that correctly. He's going to step in net, and that's going to be a big question mark for sure. And then Evan Smith and All-State midfielder Drew Pfeiffer, who's also a returning offensive weapon, is back as well. So they have a well-rounded team. They got guys on the offensive side of the ball. They have studs on the defensive side of the ball. They return their face-off guy. Question mark a little bit in the net, but he did see some significant minutes last year at times throughout the course of the season. So, it's not like he's never played at a varsity level before or see those type of shots. So there's a lot of things trending in the right direction for Montclair. And like I said, Coach Deal is super energetic and is definitely a coach that is going to, throw everything that he can to get his team to find success.
Yeah, that's actually our first scrimmage is Montclair next week. So, going to get an up-close look at them. Excited for that. Our next team, kind of in a similar spot to Montclair, I would say, Wall, the defending Group 2 South champs, finished 17-6 last year, lost 9-7 to Summit in the Group 2 final. Graduated John McCurry, who is now starting at University of Delaware. McCurry himself had 140 points last year for Wall. They also graduated their 2 top defensemen, in Dom Giglio, who's at Monmouth, and Billy Carr, who is now at Denver, and then another offensive threat in Connor Moore, who's now at Stevens Tech. However, they do return their faceoff guy, Mikey Harrell, who's committed to Bryant, Will Madden, who had 45 points last year, who's committed to Monmouth, Shea Brennan, who had 85 points last year. They return their goalie. I think Wall is a team that has consistently and constantly been one of the better teams in South Jersey. They are building. They have a rich tradition. They are getting better and better each year. Now, obviously, losing McCurry is going to be huge. A lot of those guys' success could probably be tied to him. You go from now getting the second or third defenseman to now you're being covered by the top guy. Defensively, you go from covering the third attackman to now you're covering the number 1 attackman. I think Mike D'Amico is one of their top poles. He's committed to Stockton. He goes from, like we said, being, maybe covering the third attackman. Now he's got to be the guy down there defensively. Mike's a good player. I think he can do it. But Wall's in a unique spot. I think their coach does a really nice job for them. But it'll be interesting to see, anytime you lose a player like McCurry, you're in a transition year and you have to see, can guys step up and match that production?
No, absolutely said it right. I think the one thing, just not necessarily from Wall, but just looking at our list in total, is just the well-roundedness of the states. No longer just North Jersey teams or Central Jersey teams. I think we got 3 teams from South Jersey. Wall's a short team. We got 4 teams from the shore in our top 20 list. So we got a wide range of the state, and I think it's just really great to kind of see that it's totality of New Jersey is just continuing to grow and put their name all across the board in different sectors of the state, not just kind of one or two sections across New Jersey. So it's definitely something moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and sticking with that theme, Nova, our number 16 team, St. Augustine, the Hermits, coming off a really strong year last year.
Yeah, St. Augustine, we got down there. Nick, were you there with that game for me? With me
against
or no?
Rumson. Against Rumson.
Yeah, that was one of the best games.
Oh yeah.
I even drove down with you for that one.
You did, yeah. That was
it was so worth the commute. It was
yeah. They got a nice facility down there. I mean, it's great to see. Off topic a little bit. St. Augustine as athletics in total lately. I mean, their hockey team I think just won the non-public hockey championship. Like I'm starting to see them everywhere. And
back to back. I'm pretty sure in hockey.
Yeah, in dominant fashion as well. And JC Flores has done a great job down there building up that program. Really kind of taking over South Jersey. The talent he's bringing in, year out. Some of their younger players coming up are phenomenal. They're losing some key guys, definitely on both sides of the ball. Nate Price, Ryan Marengo, Billy Hughes, and they had two great goalies there, Carson Quinn and Cooper D'Ambrosio. But they bring back a lot of key guys with experience, which is important too. They got some young guys that we know about that are still unproven, but they got some guys like Noah Plant, Austin Exley, Sebastian Varallo is a rising sophomore. He had a ton of points for them last year as a freshman. And they'll be dominant at the faceoff X with Hunter Johnson. So they got some young promising goalies coming in. Obviously, it's different going from the younger levels to stepping into the varsity cage, but they've seemed to be hitting that point of not just like a flash in the pan 1 year team. They're starting to really get up there, year in, year out. So expect big things from them this year.
Yeah, and I think, off of that, Noah Plen is, on the short list for Player of the Year in New Jersey this year. He's a really, really great player. Obviously, like you said, the losses, especially defensively, Ryan Marengo, he's at High Point now, one of the better defenders in the state. So it'll be interesting for sure. All right, our next team. I'm going to put my stamp on this right now. By far the biggest favorite of any team in any group, Gil St. Bernard's, 14-7 last year, the defending non-public B champions. They lost to Summit in the first round of the Curse Cup. I think Gil is going to have a really, really great year this year. They lost Will Dio, who had 101 points last year, and Gavin Collins. But honestly, that was really it. And they bring back a ton of talent. Max Voigt, who's committed to Dartmouth, had 64 points last year. Colin Anderson in net, who's committed to Vermont, had 206 saves. Michael Scarpetti, who is committed to Hobart as a Pole. Declan Gillen, another Pole, committed to Wagner. And then something Gil has done a really good job of. They've loaded up on transfers and, some bringing in some 8th graders, now as 9th graders. It's really bolstered their depth. One of their key transfers, Noah Blinkoff from St. Joe's Regional, is committed to Lafayette. I think that Byron has done a really great job. Hasn't always had the most depth, but I think this year, they have the top end talent. They also have the depth. We don't even talk about guys like Griffin O'Sullivan and some of their younger talent. Gil's going to be really good, and I think they're going to be a top 4 team in Somerset County this year. And I know we got some other Somerset County teams coming up this year, coming up on this list soon. But I think Somerset County is, has an argument to be the toughest county tournament in the state this year. Back in the day, again, when you guys were at Montgomery, between Montgomery, Ridge, I think Somerset County is going to be really good, and I see Gil as being one of the top teams this year. I think Byron's done an awesome job with these guys, and they're going to be really tough this year.
Yeah, I have a ton of respect for Byron Collins. Got to meet him years ago, kind of in the recruiting process at Rutgers when he was there, and then went to Delaware. And then now coming up to Gil, he's putting his stamp on the program and been doing big things. We saw them last year in our first game of the week, really. And they were young. There were a lot of freshmen and sophomores starting and doing a great job then. Like Nova said, a lot of these guys are playing year round. They're going to be bigger, but more mature. They're going to have developed their skills, and they're going to be cruising this spring, I think.
Yeah, they were by far the biggest favorite in any group this year by quite a wide margin, at least +8, if not more. So they just got to take care of business. They got to stay healthy because they were not very healthy towards the end of last season. So if they stay healthy, they got that locked up, and they're going to just continue to do great things against very very good teams.
Yeah, and like we said, I think that non-public B after Gil, you're looking at teams like Immaculata or Red Bank Catholic or Princeton Day. So I think like we said, Gil. No disrespect to those teams, but I think Gil just with not that top end talent combined with the depth they're really developing. I think Gil has earned this top 15 spot on our list. Number 14, another friend of the podcast, Christian Scarpello, head coach at Chatham Cougars, coming in at number 14 in our top 20.
Yeah, Chatham finished 16-7 last year, where they lost in the finals to Shawnee. My prediction is they will absolutely be there again. But they definitely have a lot of things to do. Their end of May schedule is by far one of the best in New Jersey. When I was just kind of looking through some things and schedules and rosters, in May alone, they got like Summit, Del Barton, Mountain Lakes, Darien, Justin, like Nate, like in a row. So it's definitely a brutal schedule. So once playoffs come around, they're absolutely going to be battle tested and ready to go. They're absolutely led by JP Lagunowich, who's absolutely going to be in the conversation for player of the year, certainly offensive player of the year, absolutely electric midfielder. Some other returners they have are Common Manita. Cole Polmini is going to look to be explosive and put some points up there for a lot of things that they have to replace. Carter Newman is expected to be their top cover guy down a close. Shep Boyd, who was, I think, a freshman last year, they're expecting monster things from what I've heard from some players and the coach. Lefty Attackman is their only other starter other than JP and Charlie Lowe. They lose 192 points, almost 200 points. So again, that's no easy task to overcome. Kind of like what we talked about with Shawnee and some other teams who might be on the outside looking in. We're going to see a lot of new faces that need to contribute, and then including Henry Davenport, who's going to have to step in the net and fill in a big role for them. Who had it, Chatham had a pretty damn good goalie last year, so they just got to continue to figure that out. And I've got a lot of faith in Coach Carpello that they're going to find ways to get it done. Even though the record might not be great because they play such a tough schedule, they're still absolutely going to give every team a run for their money like they did last year.
Yeah, we actually played Chatham and Jersey Strong this summer, and I was really impressed. JP's younger brother is going to be a freshman this year at Chatham. He was a talented player. They have a lot of young defensemen. I think Chatham's going to be really good. I think, like you said, the biggest question mark, face-off X and goal. Can they get the ball to that dynamic offense, and then can they stop the ball from going in the net? I think that's going to be the biggest question mark for those guys. Coming in at number 13, the Ridge Red Devils. Coached by Ken Marsh.
Yeah, I think a lot of Ridge. I always have. They've always been just a tough competitor. Coaching at Montgomery, playing them every year, if not twice a year. Growing up in Randolph, we played them all the time. I mean, Coach Marsh always has these guys firing. I feel like it's not a team you always hear about. You don't hear about individual players out of Ridge quite as much as you might from some other schools, especially that they play. Like you said, Bill, in the Somerset County tournament as well. You always hear guys about it, Bridgewater and Pingree and schools like that. But Ridge is kind of under the radar and just always a great team to play against and to see play. So I expect them to do some great things. I think that's why we got them there sitting at 13. Bringing back their goalie, David Hamilton. They do lose guys like Colin Ward and Will Arrett, some phenomenal players, but they bring back a lot of great guys as well. Ryan, is it Olivo?
Olivo,
AJ Lembo, Brendan Laffey, and I think one of the best defensemen out there right now in Rook Donahue.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Ridge is one of, if not our biggest rival, and it's a game I look forward to every year. I think also between Hamilton and their faceoff guy Bastian, they have an incredible core of their team. Rook, like you mentioned, one of the best cover defensemen in the state. I'm biased because I got to coach the kid, but Ryan Olivo is one of the better midfielders of the state. Who as you mentioned, Gil, is probably really under the radar. They do have to replace some guys defensively, and they lose their top goal scorer, but from what we've heard, they have really strong youth as well. So I think Ridge is going to be tough team to beat. Coming in at number 12, Westfield.
Yeah, Westfield. They're always up here. They've been a strong team. They're deep every year. It seems like they lose some key guys for sure, but and their team's going to go through everything's going to go through Cody Lamb and Colin Coyle this year, who I think are phenomenal. But they have a lot of questions to answer as well. Losing the goalie Quinn Wojcik, Ryan Waldman, ton of points last year for them, who kind of worked hand in hand with Cody Lamb, Danny Hazard at the faceoff X, and a great defenseman in Trey Brown. So. A lot of questions for sure, but it seems, I mean, I know their youth program is one of the best in the state year in, year out. They have tons of players coming through Westfield every year where they just continue to reload. So, we expect them to be right up there again and compete. So excited to see what they can do this year. Again, a lot of questions to be answered, but typically a team that can answer them with some new faces.
All right. Number 11, Bernards, one of the most exciting teams. I think Inside Lacrosse just released a top 25 public school teams in New Jersey. Bernards came in, I believe, at number 22. So really, really exciting time to be a Bernards Mountaineer fan. Things look bright for them.
Bernards, I'm excited to see them this year. I think we have them at, what would we say, 11? I think they're cracking the top 10 sooner than later. I mean, this senior class, last year's juniors, it's one of the best classes I feel like we've seen at any school. I mean, like the names they have here coming in their senior class, like this is their year. I mean, starting in goal with Caden Kurse, one of the best in the state, also friend of the pod, obviously, and I mean they're bringing back everybody. I mean, looking at their list, like, did they lose anybody of note to you guys? It's just everybody that we remember talking about last year is coming back again this year. Across the board. So, I mean, they're going to be special. They got a great coach in Dave Brothers. I think sky's the limit for them.
Yeah, I think in their senior class alone, they have like 9 commits. I think the one thing with Bernards is they're top 10, they're top 11. You can probably go with any team in the state. I do worry a little bit about their depth. I do think after that first group, it might fall off a little bit. But as you mentioned, Trevor Sardis going to Michigan, Caden Kurse going to Rutgers, and then, David Brothers at attack. He's committed to Wagner. They just have a lot of great players, and, 2 of the most underrated players in the state, in my opinion, and Charlie Honeywell and Jay Caldwell. Those are 2 guys, who you would take on your roster any day of the week. I think and again, like we said, in our top between 20 and 11 alone, we had Gil, Ridge, and Bernards, all from Somerset County. I think it's going to be a dogfight this year. And as we talked about, Bridgewater is always good. Teams like Immaculata are getting better. I think that, it's going to be really, really strong competition this year. I think it's really exciting, and it's going to get any better, only going to keep getting better. And I think, when you look at Group 1 South, it's probably going to be Bernards versus Rumson again. And I think, the way Bernards is playing, they have to feel they have a shot this year. And I think last year, everyone kind of looked at that game and said, Rumson probably wins this going away. And I remember it was a lot closer than anybody thought. So I think I agree with you, Gil. I think Bernards is going to be hovering in that, top 10 range the entire season.
Yeah, everyone knows I'm a huge Bernards fan, as I get to also coach most of those guys year round. The one thing with them is last year every big game that they had, they really didn't show up. The statement win, they never really kind of had that statement win that they needed to kind of take them over the hump, to put them in that that top conversation category. Their schedule, a strength of schedule for sure, was a little on the weaker side. Can't call got to call a spade there. But when they did get to those top 10, top 15 teams, they just generally couldn't find a way to get the job done. But again, they return pretty much everybody. I think there's like only 3 teams that almost like return everyone. Eastern's pretty close, who we've already talked about. Bernards returns, I think, like literally 10 of 11 starters, and then Pingree's right there as well with like 10 or 9 out of 11 starters returning. So they're going to be all on the same page. That short chemistry that they need, they're already going to have with the whole schedule being shortened, and they're definitely going to be a team you do not want to face this year.
Awesome. So again, just a quick recap. Our 22-11 at 20, Moorestown, 19 Eastern, 18 Montclair, 17 Wall, 16 St. Augustine, 15 Gill, 14 Chatham, 13 Ridge, 12 Westfield, and 11 Bernards. Nova, Gil, any overarching thoughts as we talk about that 11 through 20, or you think we nailed it?
No, I think we touched on most of it. I think, again, seeing some new teams in there, and we'll see how it shakes out if they can hold on there or if they can continue to climb. It'd be interesting to see teams like Eastern. We didn't really talk about it all last year, and see if all those guys coming back, if they can produce and continue to move up that list. And teams like Bernards, if they can crack the top 10, and then some household names like Westfield and Ridge, and Chatham. Some questions to answer. Can they hang on up there and keep moving up, or are they going to kind of fall off to some of these other teams that might be right outside our top 20? Like we said, there's some really good teams right there, probably 21 to 25 that we didn't even really touch on today that absolutely can crack the top 20. And we saw that last year. I think our preseason top 20 last year was pretty strong, but there's always teams fluctuating in and out there. So it'd be interesting to see how this 11 to 20 continues to go week to week.
Yeah, for me, just like I said last year, this top 20 list is very, very hard to make, and a lot of detail and conversations and research kind of goes into this and what we're doing. And in many ways, we hope that we're not right. We hope we're wrong, and it's an exciting season, and guys rise up, guys fall down, and everything in between. We had 1 or 2 guys rise up last year, and 1 or 2 guys who were pretty high on our list, not even come close to making the top 20. That's ultimately what you want to see with the list. We don't want our list to be perfect. We want to see fluctuation throughout the course of the season, because that's what makes it fun, and that gives us something to talk about. So it's not easy. If your team's not on here, please prove us wrong. That's all we can kind of hope for, and we'll give you respect as fast as we can.
Yeah, and something that we want to look to do this year as well. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment, send us an email, tag us. We're here. We want to interact with you guys. You can find us on the field most of the time, but if not, we're here. We want to be active with this community, because we know how passionate New Jersey lacrosse community is. So again, send in your questions, send in your critique. If you want to poke fun at anything we said, we are very eager and welcome to hear all and any feedback. So next week we're looking at our 10 through number 1. I believe we might have a guest, friend of the pod, Keith Glock, returning for episode number 2 of the podcast. So if you guys have any questions for Keith you might have, again, send them our way. And again, thank you guys, Nova, Gil. I love doing this with you guys. It's been a pleasure to be back here with you guys. Nick, thank you so much. We're really excited for this pod this year. So Nova, Gil, anything else to add?
Yeah, if you want to reach out to us with questions, comments, on Instagram, Q4 Lacrosse, and at PlayFast Podcast, I believe, and shoot us an email at info@q4lacrosse.com. Any questions, comments, things you want to, topics on the show. If you want to be a guest or have a nomination for a guest, we're always looking for coaches, players, anybody to do with New Jersey lacrosse throughout the season. So please feel free to reach out, info@q4lacrosse.com and at Q4Lacrosse on Instagram.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.